Hello everyone, and welcome to our training on how to be a digital navigator at Durham County Library. My name is Katie Kehoe. I am the digital navigator consultant on the LSTA grant, piloting the library's launch of its digital navigator program. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the history of digital navigators, what a digital navigator does, and provide resources for those who want to take on this work at the library. The digital navigator model that we are basing our program on at the library was developed during the pandemic by over 600 practitioners in collaboration with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. And it began as a one-on-one phone service to meet people's digital literacy, computer, and internet needs during the pandemic when we weren't able to be together in person. And the Durham County Library does offer the digital navigator sessions as a phone service, although primarily we've had the best luck with meeting people in person. And the idea is that a digital navigator serves as a reference to meet all three of the needs that research shows help people to be digitally included in their community. And we're defining these needs as having affordable home internet, a device that meets the user's needs, and the digital literacy skills to use these two tools effectively. Now, we should take into account that if someone doesn't have access to being able to repair their device, that this is also a digital inclusion need should the device they receive break. And many of the nonprofits that we are working with to provide devices also provide that hardware support. As we work on our program, we are borrowing from the Digital Navigator Toolkit developed by the Salt Lake City Library and the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. And here's what Salt Lake City Library writes about digital navigators. Digital navigators address the whole digital inclusion process, home connectivity, devices, and digital literacy skills with community members through repeated interactions. These hands-on guides are familiar with digital equity resources and can be volunteers or cross-trained staff who work at trusted community-based organizations such as social service agencies, libraries, and healthcare organizations. To break that definition down and go more into what a digital navigator does. Of course, as a digital navigator, we are trying to help with the whole digital inclusion process. And this means for us as a librarian that we'll provide one-on-one peer support in order to help people find low and free cost computers, low and free cost internet, and the digital literacy skills to use these two tools. And our goal really is to do this one-on-one in a similar way as reference support, and to build relationships with these patrons and the community so that they know that we offer this service. And this is largely driven by conversations that we have with community members when they come to Digital Navigator. So for example, if a patron says, "I'm struggling to log into my email, can you help me?" we will focus on finding out why they are struggling to log in and teach that person how to log into their email on their own. So these sessions are driven by practical questions that the patrons bring to us and are focused on the goals that they want to accomplish. And this model is beginning to appear all over the country and all over our state. So in addition to the Salt Lake City model we've discussed, Charlotte has developed a digital navigator program that is citywide, and anyone can call 311 and work with their own digital navigator. The state library has also piloted their own digital navigator program and is seeking to create a toolkit for the whole state and the state's libraries to begin implementing their own digital navigator programs. And finally, in this county, the Triangle Nonprofit and Volunteer Leadership Center piloted a grant where they paired digital navigators with Meals on Wheels in order to send them to homes and directly work with older adults who are also receiving that service. So what does a Digital Navigator session actually look like at Durham County Library? Well, I highly encourage you to go and observe Digital Navigator sessions happening with other librarians, and even to co-navigate a session when you're first beginning to learn how to do this. And you can speak to the newly formed Digital Navigator Committee to see if you can set something like this up. But here is the general idea of what a session looks like in practice. Sessions at most take an hour, but can run as little as 15 minutes. This depends on the patron you're working with and the question they're asking. Well, the first thing that I try to do as a digital navigator is really to establish the relationship with the patron and make sure they understand what I can help them with. So I'll learn their name, their pronouns, and I'll make it clear that a digital navigator can help them find a low-cost or free computer, find low-cost or free internet, and that I can help them learn about their technology, from answering their questions on their smartphone to using their laptop. And once the patron understands what I can do to help them, I ask them, what would you like to work on today? What are your technology goals? And I write down everything that they want to work on. And I use this to guide our sessions. Generally, when I'm working with a patron, I will only focus on 1 to 3 goals tops in a session. And this is because I'm not simply trying to solve their technology problems. I'm trying to help them become better technology problem solvers. So if I work on 10 different things in one session, are they going to remember them when they get home? I want them to be able, if they ask me, how do I log into my email, by the end of the session, to log into the email on their own without needing me to help them do it. And so that takes us to the next thing of collaborating on the problem. I try and encourage other people to try to not touch the devices that your patron is working on. And this is because I'm hoping to guide them to finding the solution to their problem on their own and teaching them how to work with technology rather than solving that technology problem for them. So we'll work together. Sometimes it does make sense to show someone how to do something on their phone, handing it back to them and letting them work on the problem themselves. But the big part of this is that you're working as a peer in collaboration with them. And I always like to make sure that I have actually answered their question. So as we're working and before the session ends, I'll say something to them like, have we answered your question today? Is there anything else you want to discuss? And I say this to them well before the session has ended. Probably, if we're doing an hour, I'll say this to them like 30 minutes into the session to make sure that we really are focused on what they hope to accomplish in that hour. And the final step really is to try and get them to return if it makes sense for them to come back. So I'll say something to them like, well, we didn't have a chance to figure out how to delete the apps that you wanted to delete on your phone. Would you like to schedule another Digital Navigator meeting in order to learn how to do that? And this is because we're not going to answer all their questions in one session. Our goal is to be a teacher, not necessarily to be a tech guru who's just going to answer all the questions. So that's going to take time. And inviting them back and creating that long-term relationship to continue to answer their questions is key. This is also an opportunity to ask for their feedback in some kind of formal way, to deliver a feedback form that the library has that your supervisor might want you to be using. If there's only one thing I want you to take from this training, is that digital navigators don't solve technology problems. Digital navigators make better technology problem solvers through sustained one-on-one interactions. So the next part of this training is a series of practice sessions that can be found in the Digital Navigator SharePoint. Along with these practice sessions, while you're doing them, take a look at the Digital Navigator Handbook. where you can see all the resources that you can use. I encourage you to work through these practice sessions with a team member. And I encourage you to observe a digital navigator while they're working with a patron, and possibly even co-navigate with them. So good luck, enjoy the next part of this training, and find a friend to work with you through these sessions.